less power, more weight. They're not the typical claims made of updated bikes, but they're true of the 2016 Brutale 800. It makes 116 horsepower compared to the old one's 125. Peak torque is up, but only a bit, at 61 pounds-foot compared to 57.8, and it's a little heavier at a claimed 172 kilograms dry compared to 167. But a peak figure is only useful at a particular RPM and at a minority of the time, argues MV, so instead they've improved torque at all those other RPM where we spend more of our time. The new Brutale 800 makes its peak torque at 7,600 RPM, but it's also claimed to make at least 90% of that everywhere from 5,000 to 12,000. As a result, low to mid-range torque is claimed to be up by as much as 18% compared to the old one. It's the same philosophy that MV used on the 110 horsepower Turismo Veloce, which has the same basic engine, and the philosophy is swap power which you can't always use for torque that you can. A range of engine revisions and a bulky new exhaust mean the Brutale 800 now also meets Euro 4 emission limits, which is possibly the reason for the update. The engine makes a distinctive raspy noise which rises several decibels and takes on a new note of induction above 5,000 RPM. There's enough drive anywhere from there to the red line for pretty rapid acceleration. It's not ludicrously fast, but it's always ready to respond. And the spread is so broad that you hardly need to wait for the red line before changing up. When you do wait, power builds linearly, and when you don't, you get another lump of torque anyway, and knocking the selector with your foot is all you have to do. As well as the engine tweaks, the Brutale 800 has a new electronics package, including traction control, riding modes, a hydraulic slipper clutch, and a quick shifter. It allows clutchless shifts up and down the box, provided you've got the throttle closed on the way down and open on the way up, and you also have to be going over 12 miles an hour, but you will be. The downshifts are really smooth. With a pillion, it means less banging heads, and there's a discreet grab rail for them to hold on to. On your own, it just helps keep the bike settled as you brake for a corner. MV chose the famous Ronda Road near Malaga for the launch ride. It features bend after bend until your arms ache from the acceleration and braking forces. Otherwise, work on the Brutale 800 was light, with barely a pause in drive on clutchless upshifts, torque everywhere, and loads of bite from the front brake. The twin 4-pot Brembo radial calipers are one of those setups that make you recalibrate to a lighter touch needed through the lever. ABS can be switched off using a couple of buttons on the left bar and a menu on the digital dash, which also lets you choose between traction controls level 0 to 8. You can switch the quick shift to off too if you want to use a hydraulic slipper clutch instead. On the right bar, another button lets you choose between riding modes, and there are 3 preset modes: Sport, Normal and Rain, each with its own fuel map and torque response, and a 4th mode which is customizable. The settings are pretty straightforward and easy to adjust, except for the fact that the button on the right bar sometimes didn't respond when pressed. Geometry has been tweaked slightly, the trail is increased and wheelbase lengthened by 20mm to 1400mm. The Brutale 800 feels compact, nimble and quick steering. It's toy-like. The riding position is upright and comfortable, but with your feet slightly further back than typical of a naked bike. Suspension comes from a Sachs shock and upside-down Marzocchi fork, both with preload and rebound damping adjustment. It's firm and so is the seat, so that approaching uneven patches of road at about 70 miles an hour, I wanted to lift my bum off the seat to avoid being propelled skyward. The tyres, Pirelli Diablo Rosso 3s, only gave me cause for doubt once. The front just slid a fraction at a roundabout, but I put that down to the super smooth road surface. Generally they seem really good. Dash equipment includes a lap timer, but you don't get a fuel gauge, only a warning light. Now, in an interesting part of the pre-ride presentation, MV divided the bike market into what it sees as 3 distinct classes: upper premium, premium and entry. At the top, unsurprisingly, in upper premium was MV. In the middle, MV put the other European manufacturers: Aprilia, Guzzi, Ducati, KTM and BMW. And at the bottom, according to MV, were the Japanese 4. What's interesting is how the same manufacturers might have been listed if the average motorcyclist were to rank them for reliability. I think we probably wouldn't find MV at the top anymore. Perhaps the firm is strengthening its reputation in that area. The revisions to the Brutale 800 include a throttle twist grip, which the firm says is better at keeping out moisture, and a more robust side stand switch. Now basically that means they've fixed things that were wrong. But a premium or ultra premium product doesn't have to be the most reliable, it has to be the most desirable, and against that measure, the new Brutale 800 may take some beating. According to MV, its closest competitor is the Monster 821 Stripe, the highest spec version of Ducati's middleweight naked, which starts at 9650 compared to the Brutale 800's 10499. Is the Brutale 800 worth the £850 extra? Given that the Monster 821 Stripe doesn't have a hydraulic slipper clutch or an up-down quick shifter, I think the MV could be.